A creepy story about a white figure dancing in my room. When I was about 5 to 7 years old, I remember something that I still can't explain. I had my own room and I was awoken on a number of occasions during the middle of the night by hearing my bedroom door slowly squeaking open and a very tall, at least as tall as the door, white figure slowly walked towards me. I remember it had very weird movements, like arms flailing and weird jerky torso movements. I never got a good look at it except for I never saw any facial features or anything because it was too dark. The white figure looked like it was slowly dancing towards me, and I mean very slowly, but the arm flailing was a lot, and when I saw it move towards me it just inched a bit. Even though I never saw any features on it including its face, it looked like it was in a tall white dress with a long oval head. It kind of felt like it was trying to maintain eye contact with me while jerking its body. Of course I was incredibly horrified about what I was seeing, and I thought I could hide under my blanket to keep safe, trying to pretend that I was sleeping and didn't notice it until it left my room. I can honestly say that I remember this happening at least 5 times, but I don't know how often it happened or how long. I don't remember anything after the moment when I was hiding under my blanket. I don't know how I was able to fall asleep again, but I just know that I woke up in the morning forgetting about it. It wasn't until about 5 years ago that I suddenly remembered these events, and I discussed it with my parents and they thought it could be one of my sisters sleepwalking or just my imagination. All I know is that it happened and I don't know why. I am also very skeptical about aliens and ghosts, and I think there has to be a reasonable explanation. What do you think? My cat is dead, but I still see him. A week ago today, my cat died. He was sick with a disease that was fatal, something we couldn't cure no matter how hard we tried, so it's not like I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting it. I guess it all really happened so fast. That's the worst part of it. First he was vomiting, then not eating, then not doing anything other than sleeping, then he died. And it all happened in a matter of 2.5 weeks. I've had this cat since I was 7 years old. He was 11 when he died and I had just turned 18 the day we found out how sick he was. What a wonderful birthday present, right? He meant a lot to me. He had been my best friend for so long and he saved me from my mental health issues many times throughout my young life. He was my baby boy, the light of my life that kept me going most days as my home life wasn't spectacular other than seeing him every day. So, I want to preface my story of what I assume to be his ghost, that I am severely depressed and I do hallucinate sometimes. I'm also agnostic. I'm not sure what I believe in, but my idea of a ghost is that it is a memory that lives on in our day-to-day lives and it can be heightened or forgotten. I just wanted to share my story here, maybe for advice, maybe to just tell someone, or maybe to help someone realize how to cope with the loss of a loved one too. I'll start with the day he died. I was coming home from school. I had expected to get a text from my parent about him since he was at the vet when it happened, but I never did. I think on the drive home, I knew he was gone even without really being told. I often feel this pang of missing my cat, and I felt it immensely around the end of my school day, and I kept saying to my friend, I really miss him, you know. And I wasn't sure why it was so heavy at that time, but I feel like it was something in me that knew. So I get home and my other parent tells me that he passed away while they were trying to do tests on him. I went into shock. I didn't believe her and I didn't want to believe her. We have a room with big open windows where we keep boxes and all the cat things, litter boxes and a cat tree and toys. My cat always slept at the very top of the cat tree, and my immediate reaction to this news was to go and look at it. I stared at it for what felt like an eternity. At some point I had put a handful of dry cat food on the top where he would sleep, and I snapped out of the trance. I hadn't cried yet. I believed they were lying, but I also knew deep down that they weren't. I finally started realizing that something was viscerally wrong when I went to my room. There's a box next to my door that my cat used to sit on and wait for me to open the door to let him in, and he would always be there when I got home. He wasn't there. I went into my room and started looking around at all his spots: the window where he would rest contently, the spot on my bed he would curl up and sleep, the area on the floor he would sit and wait for me to come into my room. He wasn't there. I decided I wanted to leave. Everything felt too wrong, and as I was getting ready to go, I heard a little cry at my door. And the doorknob moved. I have a dog, but she does not meow and doesn't mess with my doorknob. And I also have another cat, an older one, so he would never leave the big room with the windows. My cat always did that when he wanted in my room. So I checked. I opened the door and looked at the box. He wasn't there. I started sobbing. I realized he was gone. He was really gone, and he was not coming back later. It was the worst feeling in the world. But I was also comforted with the idea after I had left my house. He had cried at my door. How? He was dead, he couldn't cry at my door. I wondered if that was his way of letting me know, letting me release all the intense pain I was bottling up by thinking he was still alive. I like the idea of that. It comforts me. Over the next couple of days, I didn't want to go to school because I would wake up and forget he was dead. I'd look around my room, confused, then I'd remember and start sobbing and trying to cover my face and eyes so I couldn't see all the spots he should be. I bottled that up after a couple of days, sucked it up so I didn't get in trouble for being sad. Those days I was too busy crying every time I got home to notice anything out of place, but every time I did get home there was a heavy feeling that just hurt too much and I would cry and cry and cry. This week is when most of the visions began. They were almost unnoticeable at first but now it's constant. I'd wake up in the mornings and go into the kitchen to get myself food, ignoring the fact that my cat wasn't there to greet me as best as I could. Through the kitchen, you can see into that big open room with the cat tree, and at this time, I was avoiding looking in there at all. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw him laying up there or sitting up there. It's like seeing a silhouette, or a transparent figure. I was confused. I don't see things like that, but I didn't think much of it. But I'd see that every single morning. Then it started to be more spots. Where he would lay on the counter, on top of one of my unfinished painting. Where he'd sit at the window in the living room and chirp at the birds. The cat tree, the pillow near the cat tree, the cat bed. I've gotten used to it. I keep assuming it's just my imagination or my memory of him or something. I do things out of habit still. I leave my room to go get him, go to check on him in the big room, get a treat for him, check the box where he would sit, look across the bathroom where he would sit and wait for me to go back to my room. It's frustrating, really. I don't need to do those things, it takes time out of my day, but I still do. The next thing that started happening is I would see him come out of the office, which is right next to my room, and he'd follow me into my room from there. I would stop and stare into the office when that would happen. It would confuse my parent who was always in there when I did that. I think it freaks them out. They don't know I see these things, they just know I do my habitual checking on my cat and going to get him even though he's not there. Now the reason I'm writing this, the most stressful thing to happen out of this happened last night. I was laying in bed, watching YouTube and drawing, then I looked over towards the end of my bed and I saw him, clear as day. He jumped up onto my bed. Then he wasn't there anymore and I started crying, patting my bed and calling for him to come back up here as if he was just hiding underneath my bed. I did that for 5 minutes, crying and patting until I finally gave up. I felt stupid after that, crazy. Obviously there was nothing there, right? I don't know. I just keep thinking about it, so I wanted to write about it. I just wanted to talk about it somewhere. Maybe you think I'm stupid, having all of these feelings for a cat. Honestly, if you don't understand it, I don't expect you to ever understand until you go through it too. Pets are our family and we are all they have, and they love us deeply if we love them back. This is why my cat's death affected me so deeply. He was my best friend, he's still my best friend, and I know that he's gone now but I still see him and I hear him moving around my room or crying at my door. I don't know if it's a ghost, a memory, a sign, or just my imagination, but I do know that it makes me feel at ease. He was alive, he made my life better and I will always have those memories and cherish them, and for whatever reason, I still vaguely experience them. So if you lost a pet recently, look around. Remember them, their spots, their habits, the way they smelled, how soft their fur was, because I guarantee you that they remember you and they always will. Thank you for listening to my story. Unexpected encounter on the road. So, I'm an OTR truck driver, which means that I drive across the country multiple times in a month-long period. I'd like to share a story with you. On a dark July night around 2 a.m. I was headed south on US 93 highway in Nevada. Approximately 30 miles north off of Las Vegas. Traffic was scarce. I haven't seen a single vehicle for the last 40 minutes at least. The only source of light that illuminated the road were the truck headlights. I was on a phone with a friend of mine just chatting about random stuff, when in a distance, about 300 feet ahead of me I saw something on the shoulder of the road. At first I thought it might have been a turned-over construction sign or a bag of some sort. But as I was approaching the object I started to make out some features. A human-like figure, I thought. Just to be clear, that area is deserted and there's absolutely nothing to be found within a 25-mile radius. When I was about 5 yards away I could see it clearly. It was a boy. 8 to 10 years old I would say. With a school backpack and white plush bunny and his right arm held tightly against his chest. He was just standing there with his cold stare, completely unemotional. Looking me directly in the eyes. He hasn't broken a stare as I passed him. He hasn't even blinked or flinched. And let me remind you, that it's an 80,000 pound semi-truck moving at 65 miles an hour. It's virtually impossible not to react to it driving past you about a yard away. My heart was racing. My whole body was covered in goosebumps. A cold chill went down my spine. I don't think I have ever been so disturbed in my life since I've never had any paranormal encounters. Once I passed him, first thing that came to my mind was that if I see him appear again couple of miles ahead I'm gonna have a heart attack. But it never happened. The rest of the trip was uneventful. I still don't know what it was. I'm not trying to claim that it was a ghost or a spirit of a deceased child. I just can't find any adequate explanation to it. It was definitely not a hallucination since I was wide awake and talking on the phone. It just seems weird to me. What in a world was a 10-year-old kid doing by himself in the middle of a desert? Just want to say that the story is not made up. I experienced it myself in July this year. Please, let me know if you've ever been around that area and seen something similar. Thanks.